Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Cosmic Lullaby. Tonight we sit with a question that sounds like it should have one clean answer, and does not. How long would it really take us to reach Mars? It is a gentle paradox, because the true answer keeps sliding away from you even as you reach for it, the way a number on a departure board changes its mind a moment before the train arrives. Picture the whole night as a long train ride across a desert after sunset, the carriage rocking in its own unhurried rhythm, the window holding nothing but dark sand and a sky gone thick with stars. That rocking, that low, steady clatter of wheels on rail, is the thread we will follow all the way through. You do not have to understand orbits or engines to feel it. You only have to let your body sway with the ride. We have 4 slow regions to drift through tonight, and you can let all 4 go, because I will carry them for you. First, we board at dusk, standing on a platform between 2 quiet worlds, feeling out the strange, comforting idea of distance itself. The way you might feel the length of a journey before you have even found your seat. Then the train pulls away into the second region, where the gap between the worlds is shown to breathe and stretch, widening and narrowing on its own patient schedule, which is the real, forgiving reason that any answer to how long begins with it depends. After that, in the third region, the engines fall away into silence, and the long crossing begins in earnest. Months of coasting through the dark with your body held safe inside momentum that asks nothing more of you than to rest. And at the very end, in the fourth region, the lights of arrival rise out of the blackness, small and steady, and we sit for a while with the comforting smallness of landing somewhere so far from home, keeping company with the old, patient watchers who first noticed this rust-colored world and wondered about it themselves. If this kind of long, slow drifting is good company for your nights, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake, turning the same quiet questions over in the dark, looking for somewhere unhurried to rest their thoughts. But that is only if you feel like it. Nothing here asks anything of you. There is nothing here to hold on to, and nothing you need to remember by morning. Let your shoulders ease down into whatever is holding you. Let your jaw soften, your hands go heavy. Your breath find its own low rhythm, the same rocking rhythm as wheels on rail, on and on into the dark. The desert outside the window is endless and unbothered, and so, for now, are you. Settle in. Let's begin. There is a particular kind of dark that only exists after the last station lights fall away behind you, when the world outside the window turns to a single unbroken color, and the only proof that you are moving at all is the small, steady sway beneath your seat. That is where we begin tonight, not with a countdown, not with a launch pad, but with something older and far more forgiving, a night train, long and low, easing out across a desert that has no edges you can see. Somewhere behind you a door latch settles into place with a soft click. Somewhere ahead, the rails go on longer than your eyes could ever follow, even in daylight. But it isn't daylight now, and that is exactly as it should be. Feel where you are sitting. A window seat, cushioned, worn just enough by other travelers to have grown kind to the shape of a body. The overhead lamp above you has been turned down to its lowest amber, more suggestion than light, and the little reading lamp by your shoulder isn't on at all. You don't need it. There is nothing to read tonight except the dark itself, and the rhythm underneath you, which is already doing something to your shoulders you may not have noticed yet, loosening them, one notch at a time. The way a hand might loosen a knot, it isn't in any hurry to finish. There is no one to check tickets tonight, no conductor pacing the aisle with a punch and a flashlight. If there were, you would let them pass without a word, because nothing about this ride requires proving where you belong. You are simply here, folded into a seat built for exactly this kind of stillness in motion, your coat or blanket drawn up over your knees, your hands resting loosely in your lap, the way hands rest, when there is nothing left for them to hold onto or hold up. Down the length of the car, other travelers have already found their own version of this same surrender. A head tipped against a shoulder, a scarf pulled higher, a book set face down and forgotten on a lap. Nobody here is in a hurry. That, more than anything else, is what makes this particular carriage a good place to ask a very large question. The train has a heartbeat of its own. Wheel over rail joint, wheel over rail joint, a two-part pulse that repeats every second or two. Patient as a metronome, nobody wound on purpose. It doesn't rush toward anything, it simply continues. And in continuing, it starts to feel less like a machine and more like breathing. Your breathing, maybe, matching itself to the clatter without being asked. The in-breath landing on one beat, the out-breath trailing into the next. This is the whole trick of a long night crossing. The secret carried in the wheels themselves, motion, kept steady and unhurried long enough, stops feeling like travel and starts feeling like rest. You are going somewhere. You are also, somehow, already home. Outside, the desert doesn't announce itself so much as imply itself, a suggestion of low dunes catching what little light the sky offers, a horizon that seems to bend just slightly with the curve of the land. Or maybe that's only tiredness drawing soft edges around a hard world. Every so often a shape passes that might be a rock formation, or a lone stand of something rooted deep enough to survive out here, gone again before you can decide which it was, and it doesn't matter which it was. Either way, nothing out there needs your attention right now. There is no danger in this stretch of night, no signal to watch for, no schedule to keep, except the one the train is already keeping for you. Your only task, if it can even be called a task, is to sit here, warm under whatever you've pulled over your knees, and let a single quiet question drift up the way steam might drift from a cup you've stopped needing to hold. Above the desert, where the last haze of any distant town has finally burned away, the sky has opened into something almost too full to take in all at once. Not the thin scatter of stars a city window usually allows, but a whole dense field of them, layered back and back until the eye gives up trying to count and simply rests in the looking. It is the kind of sky that makes the ceiling of the train car feel thinner than it is, as though the lamp above your head and the furthest light up there belong, tonight, to the very same low conversation. You could ask your question up into that sky just as easily as you could ask it into the dim car around you. Perhaps you already have, without quite meaning to. Here is the question, and there's no rush in asking it, no rush at all in answering it either. Not tonight. How long would it really take us to reach Mars? Say it to yourself the way you might say something to a companion across the aisle who is already half asleep, not urgently, not like a problem to be solved before the next stop, but like a thought you're turning over simply because the miles allow for it. How long? Not could we, not should we. Those questions belong to daylight, to boardrooms, to briefings full of numbers on bright screens. Tonight there is only the gentler version of the question, the one that fits in a dim compartment at whatever hour this is, if you left from here, from this world, this platform, and you wanted to arrive there, at that other one. How many nights like this one would it take before the rails ran out and the doors opened onto red ground, because that is one honest way to hold this whole idea in your mind tonight, as a matter of stations. Picture a single, impossibly long line stretching out across the dark. The kind of line real railways only ever gesture toward with their timetables and their maps pinned behind glass in old terminals. On this line, there are 2 stations, and only 2 that matter for tonight's ride. One of them is the station you are pulling out of right now, familiar in every particular. Its platform still warm from a million ordinary departures. This is Earth, blue and busy and close enough that you barely think of it as a place you could leave at all, only as the place, the given, the ground floor of everything. The other station lies very far up the line, past more darkness than the eye likes to guess at, marked on nobody's map with certainty but glimpsed, over centuries, as a small rust-colored light that never quite behaves itself in the sky. That is Mars, waiting at the end of a length of track so long that far barely covers it. So long that the very idea of a timetable starts to bend and stretch the moment you try to pin it down. You don't have to solve any of that tonight. That's important enough to repeat. You don't have to solve any of it. The train isn't asking you to calculate anything, and neither, really, is the sky. All that's being asked of you right now is to let the question exist, unhurried. The way the desert lets a single old fence post exist for miles without needing to explain itself to anyone. How long is the ride to Mars? Let it sit there in the dim car beside you like a second passenger who doesn't need conversation, just company. And because the compartment is warm, and because the rocking beneath you has by now found its way into your own chest, matching itself there quietly, let your eyes do what eyes do on trains like this. Let them drift, without any real effort, toward the window. The glass has gone nearly black, reflecting the low amber lamp back at you more than it shows the world outside. But if you lean your head just slightly against the cool pane, past your own tired reflection, past the smudge of your own breath fogging and clearing, there is more to see than dark. There, close enough to feel almost held rather than left, hangs the world you departed from, a soft blue marble of a thing, wrapped in white weather, so near still that it hardly looks like distance at all, more like a lamp left on in a room you only just walked out of. And somewhere well beyond it, small and steady and faintly rust-colored, waits the other one. The second station on this long-imagined line, patient in a way that has nothing to do with waiting for you specifically, and everything to do with simply continuing to exist, exactly where its own quiet orbit keeps it. 2 worlds, 2 lights in one window, one very long night of track unspooling between them. You don't need to look away from either one just yet. The train isn't going anywhere without you, and neither, for now, is Mars. And out there, past the glass, past the pale glow of the reading lamp and the dark hush of the carriage, 2 worlds sit at either end of the same long line, waiting the way stations wait, patient and half-lit, for a train that has not yet decided which one it will visit first. The near one is the one you already know by heart, though from out here it looks smaller than expected, a blue marble threaded with cloud, spinning steady beneath you as the rails hum. The far one is rust-colored, dim, almost shy about its own light, and it is the one your window keeps drifting back to, the way a sleepy mind keeps returning to a single soft thought instead of letting it go. Mars, a neighboring platform on the same desert line, closer to us in spirit than any other stop along the whole cosmic railway. Start with its size, because size is the easiest thing to hold in your hands, the way you might hold a small warm stone before sleep. Mars is roughly half the width of Earth across its middle, a little over 6,000 kilometers, where our own planet stretches past 12,000. Picture it as the smaller sibling on the same journey, not lesser, just built on a gentler scale. Its gravity so much lighter that if you stood on its ochre ground, you would feel almost weightless in your own step, as though the whole planet were built for drifting rather than trudging. And that color, that famous rust-red glow that has made this particular station so easy to pick out of the dark sky, since before anyone had a word for astronomy, it comes from something almost humble. Iron in the dust, the very same element that rides quietly in your own blood, rusting slowly across the Martian surface the way an old key left out in the rain turns the same soft orange over years. Billions of years of iron meeting the thin air, oxidizing under a distant sun, until the whole globe wore that same warm, low color, like a coal cooling long after the fire itself has gone out. It is not a burning world. It is an ember of one. And embers, you may remember, are some of the most peaceful things to watch before sleep. The air around that ember is thin, almost a memory of an atmosphere rather than the thing itself. Mostly carbon dioxide, so sparse that the sky above Mars presses down with less than 1% of the weight of the sky above you right now. If Earth's air is a heavy wool blanket, Mars wears something closer to a single silk sheet, barely enough to hold in warmth, letting the cold of space lean in close at night. It is a hush of a world, less insulated, quieter in its own atmospheric way, and yet, in that thinness, there is nothing frightening. Only a kind of bareness. A planet that has chosen to wear very little and simply endure the night the way it comes. Its days, though, its days will feel almost like coming home. A single turn of Mars on its axis, what its own future travelers will one day call a sol, takes about 24 hours and 39 minutes, 40 minutes longer than the day you are living right now. Barely a difference at all. Long enough that a Martian evening might stretch just a little further than an Earth one, the light lingering those extra unhurried minutes before dimming, as though this whole planet had simply decided to let its lamps burn a touch longer before settling into dark. Of every strange thing about this rust-red neighbor, its daily rhythm may be the most familiar, the closest thing to a shared heartbeat between two very different worlds on the same rail line. It even carries its own small traveling companions, two moons, tiny compared to the pale full moon that follows your train tonight, Phobos and Deimos, named long ago for fear and dread, though there is nothing to fear in either of them now. Only two modest rocks, lumpy and cratered, doing quiet laps around their planet. Neither one is round and polished the way our own moon is. Both look more like stray pebbles caught in orbit, perhaps wandering asteroids that drifted too close one distant afternoon and simply never left, choosing instead to settle into a long, slow circling that has lasted ever since. Phobos so close it circles Mars 3 times in a single day, rising in the west and setting in the east, hurried and small against that wide sky, tugged so near its planet that it is drawing, ever so slowly, closer still with each passing age. Deimos further out, slower, fainter, barely more than a bright star that happens to drift. Think of them less as moons in the grand sense, and more as 2 small lanterns swinging gently from the eaves of a distant station house, marking it out in the dark long before you ever arrive. It is worth pausing here, in this soft space between stations, to ask why this particular world, of all the worlds strung along the night sky, has always drawn the eye the way it has. Long before telescopes, long before anyone understood orbits or iron oxide or thin atmospheres, people simply looked up and noticed a point of light that refused to sit still. Most stars hold their places, fixed and patient, but this one wandered, tracing slow loops against the backdrop of the others, sometimes even seeming to drift backward for a while before resuming its course. A restless light. And restless lights, even gentle ones, have a way of catching attention the way a single flickering lamp catches the eye across a dark field. Then there was the color itself, that same iron rust glow, unlike anything else scattered across the dark. Against a sky full of white and pale blue points, one small ember-colored star stood apart, memorable in the way a single warm-toned light stands apart in a room otherwise lit by cool white bulbs. Ancient watchers in more than one part of the world gave it names tied to that same color: a war-toned light, a burning wanderer, a red eye that returned again and again to the same patch of sky after tracing its long backward loop. They could not have known why it wandered the way it did, only that among all the fixed and patient stars, this one alone seemed to be going somewhere, unhurried, but never quite still, the way a single lit window seems to travel slowly past when you watch it from a moving train. And beneath that color, astronomers who later turned their instruments its way found something almost tender: seasons. Mars leans on its axis nearly the same amount Earth does, so it tips gently through spring and summer, autumn and winter. Each one nearly twice as long as ours, since its year stretches across roughly 2 Earth years. At its poles, caps of frozen water and carbon dioxide grow wide in the Martian winter and shrink again each summer, brightening and fading like breath fogging and clearing on a cold window. Seasons, poles, a day nearly the length of your own, small, patient echoes of home, dressed up in rust and thin air and half the size, waiting at the far end of the line. It is easy, gathering all this, to start thinking of Mars as simply a smaller, colder, quieter cousin of Earth, close enough in its habits to feel almost within reach. And in a way, it is close. Closer in temperament than in miles, but temperament is not the same as distance. And here is where the soft, honest difficulty of the whole question begins to surface. The way a low hum beneath the train's rhythm slowly becomes noticeable the longer you sit with it. Because to ask how long this journey truly takes, you cannot simply measure the space between 2 dots pinned to a map, the way you might measure the distance between 2 named stations on a printed schedule. These 2 worlds are not fixed points at all. They are both riding their own wide, curving tracks around the same distant sun, both always moving, both never quite where they were a moment ago, and never quite where they will be a moment from now. The gap between our platform and that ember-colored one far ahead is not a single number waiting patiently to be looked up. It breathes. It widens and narrows over months and years, the way the space between 2 passengers walking at different paces down the length of a long train will open and close without either of them trying. So before the question of how long can be answered honestly, there is a gentler question first, and it is the one your window seems to be leaning toward now, out past the dim reflection of the lamp, out toward that small rust-colored point holding steady against the moving dark. Just how far apart do these 2 stations really sit, when neither one ever stops rolling forward along its track? And that gap between the 2 stations is worth sitting with a while, the way you might rest your forehead against the cool glass and watch the track fall away beneath the train. Because it is not a fixed number waiting quietly at the end of a tape measure. It breathes. Both worlds are travelers themselves, each one riding its own wide nearly circular rail around the sun, and neither ever stops to let you measure the space between them properly. Earth keeps to its own line, 150 million kilometers out from the sun on average, a distance so useful to astronomers that they simply named it a unit of its own. One astronomical unit, one Earth length of orbit, a kind of local mile marker for the whole solar system. Mars rides a wider curve, roughly 1.5 times that distance, out where the sunlight thins and falls a little more gently on red stone than it does on blue water. Picture the two of you on parallel tracks in the dark, close enough to see each other's lit windows some nights, and impossibly far apart on others, and you begin to feel why this whole question of distance has no single, tidy answer. It helps to translate those enormous kilometer figures into something smaller and more bodily, the way the mind so often needs a number turned into a feeling before it can really rest with it. Light itself, the fastest traveler there is, needs only a little over 8 minutes to cross the distance from the sun to Earth, about the length of unhurried, drowsy stretch before sleep finally arrives. To cross onward from the sun to Mars, light needs closer to 13 minutes. And so the light leaving Mars on any given night, the faint red glow you might catch above the horizon, is already minutes old by the time it reaches your eye. A small and lovely reminder that even looking at Mars is itself a kind of tender time travel, a message sent from a little way in the past. Hold that thought loosely, the way you hold the last stray image before drifting off, and let the numbers settle into something less like arithmetic and more like distance measured in breaths and heartbeats rather than kilometers alone. Because here is the truth the desert night makes so easy to accept. Lying against the window with the rhythm of the wheels beneath you, two trains on two different loops of track are almost never side by side. Sometimes Earth's inner faster lap brings it swinging past on the near side of the curve, close enough that the gap between the two worlds narrows to something almost intimate for worlds, about 55 million kilometers at its very best. At what the old astronomers called opposition, when Mars sits opposite the sun in our sky and Earth tucks in along the inside track just beneath it. On a night like that, the two stations feel almost like neighboring towns on the same short branch line, close enough, almost, to imagine calling out and being heard. And even that best-case number is not perfectly fixed either, because neither orbit is a flawless circle. Each one leans, ever so slightly, into a shape a touch longer than it is wide. An ellipse so faint you would never notice it riding along the rail yourself, and so some of these close encounters bring the worlds nearer than others, the 55 million mark reserved for only the rarest, most favorably aligned of these meetings. But the orbits keep turning, patient and indifferent to our wanting, and months later the two worlds have drifted to opposite arcs of their circles, the sun itself sitting like an enormous, silent conductor between them, and the distance stretches out to something almost unbelievable. Near 400 million kilometers, the longest the gap ever grows. Two lanterns on two far horizons, with all that dark desert of space rolled out between. Average it across every possible moment, every point, on both slow turning wheels, and you land somewhere near 225 million kilometers. A number that is true in the way an average is always true, and false in the way an average always is too. Because on any actual night, the real distance is one particular number, not that gentle blend of all of them. This is why nobody who studies the sky can hand you one honest figure and call the matter closed, and why the question how long would it take cannot have a single answer sitting ready in a drawer somewhere, the way a timetable might tell you exactly when the next train departs a station that never moves. Mars is not a fixed platform at the end of a straight line of track. It is another carriage, rolling on its own schedule, on its own curve, at its own patient pace. A little slower than ours since it rides the wider loop, and the wider loop takes longer all the way around. About 687 of our days for Mars to complete one full circuit of the Sun. Nearly 2 Earth years pressed into a single Martian year. Every day that passes, the two worlds have shifted position against each other by some small new angle, and so the true distance between them is less a number than it is a lingering, endless unfolding, closer, then farther, then closer again. Breathing in and out over a rhythm measured not in minutes but in years, the whole system swinging like some enormous, patient pendulum in the dark beyond your window. It helps, maybe, to let go of the idea that there should be a single number at all, the way you let go of counting the exact seconds between one railway tie and the next, once the rhythm of the train has folded itself into something your body simply trusts. Distance out here is not a wall to be measured once and remembered. It is closer to weather, or tide, something that has its seasons and its patterns even while it keeps changing underfoot. You would not ask how far the tide is from the shore and expect one eternal answer. You would ask what the tide is doing tonight, this week, this month, and trust that it moves in a shape you can learn even if you cannot freeze it in place. The space between Earth and Mars is like that. It has its rhythm. It has its own kind of low, steady heartbeat, expanding and contracting across roughly 2 years at a time, close then, far then close again. And if you simply let that rhythm exist, rather than fighting it for a single fixed truth, the whole question softens into something far easier to hold. Not how far is Mars, but how does the distance to Mars move? Even the 225 million kilometer average, that tidy middle figure so often printed beside Mars's name in old star charts and quiet reference books, is really only a resting point the mind can lean on between one extreme and the other, a kind of mile marker for the imagination, rather than a place either world ever actually occupies on any single night. The real number, whatever it is on the particular evening you happen to look up, is always somewhere on the long unhurried slide between the near 55 million and the far 400 million, and it is always, quietly, on its way to becoming some other number tomorrow. And once you start thinking of it that way, something else becomes obvious, something almost comforting in how simple it is. If the gap breathes, then some breaths bring the worlds closer than others, and if some breaths bring them closer, then some moments are simply better than others for making the crossing. You would not step off a night train at a dark stretch of empty desert track just because the door happened to be near. You would wait, without any anxious hurry, for the moment the rails curved close enough to your true destination that stepping off actually meant something, that it actually got you somewhere worth arriving. The solar system offers exactly that kind of patient, recurring generosity. It does not offer it constantly, and it does not offer it at just any moment you might feel like leaving, but it offers it reliably on a rhythm you can set a calendar by, the same steady dependability of a train schedule chalked up on a station board, printed once and trusted ever after. Somewhere in that long, slow breathing of the two orbits, in that gentle widening and narrowing of the gap between one lit window and another, there are windows of another kind too. Moments when the geometry itself leans in your favor, when the desert track curves close enough to the far platform that the whole long journey becomes, quietly, almost sensible. Those are the moments worth waiting for, the ones the timetable is really about, and it is toward one of those rare, favorable turnings of the wheel that the eye now drifts, out past the glass, into the dark, where the two orbits are already, patiently, drawing themselves together again. And because that gap between the two stations is always changing, breathing wider and then narrower again, there is a rhythm hidden inside it, and every rhythm has a good beat to step onto, and a bad one to miss. You feel this already, in your body, on this train, the way a rocking carriage has a moment where the sway settles just right beneath you. A heartbeat in the motion where stepping from one car to the next feels almost effortless, and a moment on either side of it where the same step would throw you off balance entirely. The desert line between Earth and Mars has that same kind of beat, written not in wheels on rail, but in two circles, turning slowly around a shared sun, one faster, one slower, one lapping the other again and again through the years. Earth moves quickly on its inner track. Mars drifts along its outer one at a more unhurried pace. And because the inner train is always overtaking the outer one, there comes a point, again and again, when Earth swings past Mars the way a faster train might glide alongside a slower one for one lingering stretch of track, close enough that a traveler could almost reach across and touch the other window. That alignment does not happen just once. It returns, faithfully, about every 26 months, a span the old skywatchers named the synodic period, though you need none of that word tonight. Only the feeling of it, a wide, slow drumbeat sounding, again and again beneath the ordinary days, marking the rare windows when the crossing becomes possible. Between those windows, the desert simply widens. The two tracks drift apart, Earth pulling ahead on its faster lap, Mars falling farther behind on its own long curve, until the gap that separates the two stations has stretched to something almost too vast to imagine crossing at all. And then, patiently, without any hurry, the faster train comes back around, gaining on the slower one lap after lap, closing the desert down again until the window opens once more. This is why the whole idea of leaving whenever you like simply does not apply out here. A traveler cannot simply step onto the platform on any ordinary night and expect the tracks to align in their favor. The good crossing has to be waited for. It arrives on its own unhurried schedule, roughly every 2 years and 2 months, and a wise traveler learns to let the desert set the timetable rather than fighting against it. There is something almost restful in that thought alone. The knowledge that you are not meant to force the moment, only to recognize it when the rails finally line up and rest into it. But here is the part that turns the whole idea gently on its head, the part worth holding onto as the carriage sways beneath you. Even in that favorable window, you never aim your ship at Mars. Not at Mars as it sits tonight, glowing faint and steady out past the window glass. If you aimed there, at that exact point of red light, you would arrive at an empty stretch of track, because by the time you crossed the desert, the red planet would have slid far along its own curve and would no longer be waiting where you last saw it. Mars, too, is a train in motion, gliding forward through the dark on its own unbroken schedule, and a station that moves cannot be reached by heading toward where it stood when you last looked. So instead, the whole crossing is aimed at an emptiness, at a bend of track where nothing visible sits yet. A point in the dark desert where Mars has not yet arrived, but will, precisely when your own arc of travel finally reaches it. You are not chasing a light. You are meeting a future position, trusting entirely that the other train, unseen and far off, is keeping its own patient pace toward the very same meeting point. It is a strange kind of faith, and yet the oldest kind there is, the same faith a napping passenger places in the rails themselves, certain without ever checking that the track ahead will still be there, curving true, precisely when the wheels arrive to meet it. Picture it now, gently, the way you might picture two lantern-lit trains crossing an enormous dark plane from opposite ends of a single vast arc, both moving, neither waiting. And somewhere far out in that darkness, a single curve of track has been laid down in advance to let their paths intersect at just the right hour. That curve is not drawn straight across the desert, the shortest line between 2 points. It bends wide and long. Because a ship does not simply aim itself across empty distance, it is itself circling the same sun that Earth and Mars circle, caught in the same slow gravity that holds every other traveler on this line. And so its route must curve gently outward from Earth's own track until it just brushes against the far track where Mars will be waiting. Nothing about this crossing happens by force or by rushing the desert. It happens by timing, by patience, by understanding the unhurried rhythm of two circles and finding the one narrow hour when a curved path laid between them actually closes. And so the timetable for such a journey is unlike any other kind of travel you have known. You do not check a schedule and simply catch the next crossing whenever restlessness moves you. You wait for the rails to align, sometimes for the better part of 2 years, watching the red light in the window grow fainter as the desert widens, then slowly stronger again as the tracks draw back toward each other. There is no impatience in this waiting, only a kind of settled trust, the trust of someone who has ridden enough long lines to know that the right window always does return, that the 26 months are not a delay so much as a breath the whole system takes between crossings, in and out, the way your own chest rises and falls here in this dim carriage without you ever needing to hurry it along. Think, for a moment, of how odd this would sound to someone waiting on an ordinary platform, someone who has only ever known trains that run on the hour, every hour, dependable and near. Out here, on this desert line, a traveler bound for the red station might watch 24 ordinary sunsets between one open window and the next, might feel the wide months stretch out with nothing to do, but wait for the rails themselves to come back into position. And yet, there is no frustration in it once you understand the shape of the thing, only a kind of long, unbothered patience. The same patience the train itself seems to carry in its own steady wheels, never rushing toward the horizon, simply trusting that distance yields to time, that every mile softens eventually into a mile already crossed. The 26 months are not an obstacle placed in the traveler's path. They are simply the true size of the breath the whole system takes, Earth exhaling ahead, Mars inhaling behind, until the air between them settles again into the one shape that makes a crossing worth attempting. And when that window finally does open, when the fast inner train has swung close enough to the slow outer one that the long curved arc between them pulls taut and true, something has to carry a traveler across it. A window alone is not a crossing. An aligned hour is not a journey. Somewhere on the platform, in that brief favorable stretch when the desert has drawn its two stations close, a vessel waits, quiet and dark against the night sky, holding within it the single burst of effort that will lift it from Earth's own track and set it curving out along that long unseen arc toward a station that has not yet arrived. It does not need to work for the whole distance. It only needs a beginning, one deliberate push at the very start, strong enough to bend a resting path into a moving one, and then the patience to let the shape of the crossing itself do the rest, the way a single firm push sends a coasting train gliding for miles down an easy, familiar grade. its wheels murmuring along untouched track long after the platform has slipped from view. There is a kind of relief in realizing this, that so much of the journey is not fought for minute by minute, but simply arranged for, once, correctly, and then trusted. The desert does not need to be crossed by force. It only needs to be met on its own terms, at its own hour, with a path bent to match its slow, turning geometry rather than fighting against it. That first push, and the low engines that give it, and the fuel spent all at once in that fierce, brief moment of departure. This is where the true shape of the journey begins to reveal itself. Out there on the dim platform, in the hush just before departure, when the vessel gathers itself for the one effort the entire crossing will ever really ask of it before falling silent and letting the long dark carry it the rest of the way. The platform falls away behind the window now, and the vessel that carries this whole idea of crossing begins to earn its place in the story. A train, before it can settle into that long, unhurried clatter you already know in your chest, must first be given a push, some brief effort at the very start that hands it all the momentum it will ever need for the miles ahead. A ship bound for the red station works the same way, though its push is not a whistle and a lurch forward on steel rails, it is fire. Chemical rockets speak only one language, and that language is force delivered all at once, propellant burning fast and hot, thrust shoving the vessel's mass forward for minutes rather than hours. Engineers have a quiet way of measuring that shove, a number called delta V, which simply asks how much a ship's velocity must change to get where it is going. Every part of the journey, leaving Earth's pull, bending onto the road toward Mars, slowing enough to be caught by Mars's own gentle gravity later on, has its own small budget of delta V, its own portion of fire that must be spent wisely. Because a ship can only carry so much fuel before the fuel itself becomes the burden it is trying to escape. Think of it as a traveler packing for a long crossing, weighing every last item against the simple truth that whatever is carried must also be lifted, and whatever is lifted costs something dear in the leaving. So the question becomes, of all the possible curves a ship might trace between one orbit and another, which one asks the least of the engines? Which one spends its fire most carefully? And there is an answer, found nearly a century ago by a mind doing nothing more dramatic than working through orbital mechanics on paper. The kind of patient arithmetic that turns out, decades later, to steer real hardware through real dark. It is called a Hohmann transfer, and you might picture it as the single most economical curve a traveler can draw between two circles that share the same center, in this case, the Sun. The ship does not point itself at Mars and simply go. It leaves Earth's orbit at exactly the right angle and the right hour, and from there it begins tracing a long ellipse, a wide unhurried arc that touches Earth's orbit at one end and Mars's orbit at the other. Like a single loop of thread pulled taut between two rings of very different size. Almost all of the fire happens right at the start, that one decisive push away from Earth. After that, the arc itself does the rest of the work, curving outward under nothing but the Sun's steady, ancient pull. This is the route nearly every Mars-bound craft has ridden, because it is the frugal one, the one that asks the smallest debt of fuel, and therefore lets a ship carry more of everything else: instruments, shielding, the small, stubborn machinery of survival. There are faster roads, in theory. A ship with a larger store of fuel or a more forceful engine could burn harder and bend onto a steeper, more direct arc, buying back some weeks or months at the cost of a great deal more fire. But fire is heavy to carry, and a heavier ship needs still more fire just to lift the fuel that carries the fuel, so the arithmetic bends every mission back again and again toward the same patient answer: spend little and let the long curve do the labor that haste would otherwise demand of the engines. Its price, paid not in fire but in time, is somewhere between about 7 and 9 months of travel before the ark's far end finally meets the place where Mars will be waiting. 7 to 9 months. Say it slowly, and it sounds like an ordinary season, a school year, the space between one birthday and the next. And in a strange way, that is almost exactly what it is. Not an instant, not a leap, but a long stretch of ordinary time laid end to end, the kind a body can actually live through. 1 hour of routine following another, the way a long train ride simply accumulates, mile by unremarkable mile, until one day the desert outside has become an entirely different country. It is worth sitting with how odd this patience is, given how astonishingly fast these vessels actually move. The probes and landers that have made this crossing are not lumbering things. Several have coasted along at speeds that would carry them across an entire continent in a matter of minutes. Tens of thousands of kilometers eaten every single hour. Faster than the ear can really make sense of as a number. Faster by far than any train, any craft, anything a body has ever felt the push of directly. And yet, for all that ferocious speed, the trip still asks the better part of a year. The reason has nothing to do with the ship losing its nerve or losing its fire. It is geometry. A straight line from Earth to Mars, drawn as if space simply sat still and waited, would in fact be the shorter path in the crudest sense, but no such line exists to travel, because nothing out here sits still. Both worlds keep sliding along their own tracks even as the ship crosses between them, and a line drawn straight toward Mars's position at the hour of launch would find nothing but empty desert waiting at the far end, because Mars itself will have long since moved on. You are not cutting across open desert toward a light on the horizon. You are riding the inside curve of an enormous arc that must match the sun's own pull the entire way, bending gradually outward from one near circular track to another, farther one. Speed, in this setting, is only ever half the story. The shape of the road is the other half, and the road the fuel-frugal route draws is a long, generous, unhurried curve rather than a short, greedy line. So the ship races, genuinely, blisteringly races, and the journey still takes the better part of a year, because racing along a curve this wide simply requires a great deal of curve to race along. It is not unlike a night train that never once slows on its rails, yet still takes till morning to cross a desert too wide for any speed to shrink. And here is the part of the crossing that might be the strangest of all, stranger even than the vast desert of space itself. The fire does not last. Picture the rocket's burn as brief as the whistle of a train at the very start of its long night line. A matter of minutes of open throttle, engines roaring at full voice, the whole vessel trembling with the effort of being flung fast enough, far enough, at exactly the correct angle to begin its long ellipse. Every gram of that early violence is deliberate, aimed not at Mars itself, but at the future point along its path where the two of you, ship and planet, are meant to finally meet. And then, nothing. The roar simply stops. The engines fall silent, not because anything has failed, but because they are finished. Because everything that needed to be spent has already been spent all at once, right at the beginning, the way a runner might use every ounce of effort in a single opening stride and then let the rest of the race simply carry itself. From that moment on, for month after month after month, the ship does not push. It does not need to. It has already been given everything it will use for the entire crossing. And now it simply falls. Not down, not toward anything alarming, but forward and outward along the very curve that first burst of fire traced for it, coasting on nothing but its own inherited motion, and the patient, invisible hand of the sun's gravity holding the whole arc in shape. There is something almost tender in that image if you let yourself sit inside it a moment. A machine built by careful hands, full of instruments and purpose and distant intention, that spends its violence in a handful of minutes and then goes utterly, completely quiet for the better part of a year, trusting the shape of the road it was given. No engine noise. No further shove, no correction needed, hour after hour, because the arithmetic was already finished long before the fire ever lit. Just the long, unbroken hush of freefall, curve after curve of it, night after night. The ship neither speeding up nor slowing down by its own will anymore, simply riding the momentum it was granted at the very start, the way a sleeping passenger rides whatever motion the train has already settled into, no longer aware of effort, only of movement, only of being carried. Mile folding quietly into mile, all the way out toward that small red light, waiting somewhere ahead in the dark. And then, after that short, fierce shove, after the roar folds itself away into memory, something remarkable happens. Nothing happens. The engine falls silent. The push is finished, spent, already behind you, and yet the ship keeps going, carried onward by the strength of that one brief effort, the way a train car keeps rolling long after the locomotive has settled into its steady pull. You gave it everything it needed at the platform. Now it coasts. Now it simply falls. That word, falls, sounds like it should startle you, but let it not. This is not the falling of a dropped thing toward a hard floor. This is the falling of a thrown stone that has been thrown so precisely, so patiently, that it never quite lands, curving instead along the same invisible rail the planets themselves ride, out and around the great warm lamp of the sun. The ship is not fighting gravity here. It has stopped fighting anything at all. It has simply agreed to be caught by the shape of space itself, and to travel the long arc that shape provides, the way the desert track ahead of your window was laid down once, long ago, and now needs nothing from you but your willingness to be carried along it. Picture it from where you sit. The lamps in the cabin are low. Outside, the ground has changed to something without ground at all. No dust, no fence line, no far hills, only the enormous hush of open dark, pricked through with steady points of light that do not flicker the way city lights do. Because there is no air out there to make them tremble, and somewhere ahead in that dark unseen is the little red world you are bound for, yet impossibly small, weeks and months away. But you are not straining toward it. You are not being flung. You are being carried, the way you are carried now in your own bed, the way the sleeping passenger down the aisle is carried without once having to hold the handle of his own seat. Try this with me. Let your shoulders soften into whatever is beneath them. Feel the place where your body meets the mattress, the chair, the floor. And now imagine that pressure lifting away, not violently, just releasing, the way a hand opens after finally deciding it doesn't need to hold on. Out there, in that long coasting stretch of the crossing, nothing presses on the traveler at all. No seat pushes up against them. No floor insists they stay where they are. They simply hang in the middle of the cabin, arms drifting a little where they left them, hair lifting as though a very unhurried breeze were moving through it, though there is no breeze. Only the absence of anything telling their body which way is down. There is no down. There is no up. There is only the ship and the traveler inside it, moving together at the same unbroken pace, neither one working to keep up with the other. This is what falling freely actually feels like, and it is nothing at all like fear. It feels like release. Like the instant just after you stop treading water and discover the water was holding you the whole time. Every part of the traveler's body that spent a lifetime bracing, the low ache in the back from standing, the small tension in the neck from holding the head just so. Every one of those tireless, constant efforts simply stops being needed. The trajectory itself is doing the holding now. Physics has already solved the problem of getting them there. All that is left is to be present for the ride. You can borrow that feeling tonight, right where you are. You are not weightless, not really, but you can let your body remember what it is to stop bracing. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands uncurl in your lap or against the sheet. There is nowhere you need to hold yourself up to. The falling has already begun for you too, in its own small way, the slow fall into sleep, which asks nothing more of you than that you allow it, the same way the ship allows the wide arc of its path to carry it onward without protest. And out there, in the true dark between the worlds, that falling goes on and on. Not for minutes, not for hours, for months. The ship does not thrust again for a long while. It does not need to. Its engines stay hushed almost the entire way, the way the train's own motor hums low and steady rather than roaring the whole night through, content to let momentum and the shape of the track do most of the work. Day folds into day out there with no dawn to mark it, no dusk either, only the ship's own clocks ticking along in their patient rounds, and the stars outside holding almost motionless against the black, moving so slowly across the little window that an hour of watching barely shows they moved at all. There is something almost tender in that stillness. A great vessel, full of quiet systems and soft humming machinery, drifting through a silence so complete it has no comparison inside a life lived on solid ground. No traffic, no wind, no footsteps in a hallway. Only the occasional low murmur of a fan, the faint tick of something settling, and beneath all of it, the unbroken fact of being carried the way a leaf set into a slow, wide river is carried, not steered from moment to moment, but held gently in a current far larger and far more patient than itself. Let yourself rest inside that image for a while. A traveler drifting at the center of a hushed cabin, arms loose, breath slow, going somewhere real and specific, and yet, for this stretch of the journey, needing to do absolutely nothing to get there. Unburdened, held, not held down, the way weight usually means holding, held up, the way water holds a swimmer who has finally stopped fighting it, the way your own body is held right now by everything beneath it, without you needing to notice or manage a single part of that support. Notice what such a traveler would not have to do anymore. No stairs to climb, no weight to shift from one tired foot to the other. A cup, released mid-air, does not fall to a table. It simply stays where it was let go, turning at its own unhurried pace, catching the low cabin light on one curved side, and then the other, patient as a coin spinning itself down to stillness, except that here it never quite finishes spinning at all. A page of a book, if a page could be turned out there, would drift rather than flutter. Everything within the cabin has agreed, for this stretch of the crossing, to the same quiet truce. Nothing needs to be held up, because nothing is being pulled down. The old argument between a body and the ground it stands on has simply been suspended, set aside somewhere back near the platform they left. There is a kind of trust folded into that suspension. To fall this way, endlessly, harmlessly, curving forever around a center too vast and too warm to ever be struck, is to hand the whole matter of arriving over to something larger than the traveler themselves, to the shape of space, to the pull of the distant sun, to the careful arithmetic worked out long before launch by people who understood exactly how far to swing this arc so that it would meet a moving point months from now without a single further correction. The traveler does not have to calculate that. They only have to rest inside the answer already given. You can hand things over like that too, here in the dark, letting whatever has already been arranged, the turning of the night, the slowing of your own breath, the simple math of one day ending and another quietly beginning without your help, carry you forward while you do nothing but lie still and let it. And the ship itself seems to know this stillness suits it. It does not creak the way the train's old carriages sometimes do over rough ground, because there is no rough ground out here to cross, no rail joints to clatter over. Only the smoothest imaginable path, curved once by careful hands and left, from then on, to itself. Any motion a listener might expect, a lurch, a shudder, some sense of great speed, simply is not there to feel. Even though the ship is in truth moving faster than almost anything a person has ever ridden. Speed without any felt sensation of speed at all. A swiftness so complete it circles back around into something that feels, from the inside, exactly like rest. But even a body this thoroughly carried cannot simply float through months of silence unchanged, and it cannot do without some thread of order to lean on. A person adrift for that long begins to lose, very slowly, the sense of rhythm that solid ground once gave them for free, the up and down of walking, the pull that tells muscle and bone which way to work. Something has to take the place of that old, ordinary gravity. Something has to keep the days feeling like days at all. Out there where the sun never rises and never sets, only glows the same small, steady, faraway light, hour after hour after hour. And so, drifting in that easy nowhere, the traveler's body begins to ask, faintly, for a rhythm of its own, a new kind of clock to live by, out past the reach of any ordinary morning. And while you drift there, held and unburdened, something is happening to the body that carries you, something the falling itself has set in motion. Weight is a habit the flesh keeps without ever being asked, and when that habit is finally set down, the body does not know at first what to do with the relief. Fluid that has spent a lifetime being pulled toward your feet now spreads upward instead, filling the face, softening the lines around the eyes, giving every traveler on this crossing the same faintly rounded moonlit look, as though the whole cabin has been dreaming for days. The bones, no longer asked to hold anything up, begin to let go of themselves by degrees, releasing their calcium the way a hand slowly opens when it forgets what it was gripping. The muscles, too, stop bracing. There is nothing here to brace against. Across the months of the crossing they thin, quietly, the way a rarely used path through a garden narrows and softens back into grass, not from any harm being done, only from the simple absence of a hill to climb or a weight to lift. None of this is frightening from where you sit. It is only what a body does when it is finally excused from standing. Doctors watching over such crossings have learned this by now. Learned it across decades of travelers who went up and came back down again, faces a little fuller, legs a little less certain under gravity's return, and every time, the body simply found its old habits waiting for it, patient as a coat, left hanging by the door. What is undone slowly can be redone slowly. Nothing here is a wound. It is only a body speaking a different dialect of itself for a while, out here where nothing pulls. And the travelers who make this journey are not left to drift through it unattended. The vessel around them hums with its own low, patient breathing. A life support system exhaling warmth and drawing in the stale air and giving it back clean. A sound so constant it becomes furniture. The way the rhythm of wheels on a rail becomes furniture to a sleeping passenger long before the first hour is out. Instruments elsewhere on the craft keep a quiet watch on the radiation drifting in from beyond the hull, invisible particles thrown out by a distant sun or wandering in from farther still, tallied and logged the way a conductor might glance now and then at gauges no passenger ever thinks to ask about, simply so that the ride stays what it has always promised to be: safe passage, watched over, uneventful in all the ways that matter. Shielding in the walls, careful timing, careful shelter during the rare flares, none of it visible to the traveler curled in sleep, all of it working anyway. The same way a train's rails are inspected long before any passenger boards, so that trust can simply be handed over and set down. And because the body cannot be trusted to invent its own order out of a place with no morning and no evening, no sunrise sliding across a ceiling to say that a day has turned, the travelers build one instead, deliberately, the way you might lay track across ground that offers none of its own. They wake at an hour that is only agreed upon, not given by any sun. They eat at set points strung through the false day, small unhurried meals that mark the passing of hours the way stations mark the passing of a line. They exercise for long stretches against machines that pull and resist, giving the muscles something to push into again, giving the bones a reason, however invented, to remember their old strength. A kind of counterweight built by hand because the world itself no longer offers one. And then, at an hour also only agreed upon, they sleep, tethered lightly so they do not drift into the walls, curled in a stillness that has no ceiling above it and no floor beneath it, only the hum going on and on. It would be easy to think of this schedule as a kind of discipline, a thing imposed, and in one sense it is. But listen to what it actually becomes across so many repeated days. Wake, eat, move, eat, rest, sleep. And then again, and again, the same shape returning at the same interval, hour after hour, week after week, for the better part of a year, until the sequence stops being a rule anyone has to remember and becomes instead the simple texture of being alive out here. It is the same trick your own train is playing on you right now, in this dim carriage, at this hour of the night. Not the scenery outside, which barely changes, mile of dark sand following mile of dark sand, but the rhythm underneath everything. The steady give and catch of the wheels finding each joint in the rail, again and again and again, until the body stops counting the repetitions and simply rests inside them. A rhythm repeated long enough is no longer something you notice. It is something that holds you the way a hand rests on a shoulder, without needing to grip. Even the exercise, which sounds by its name like effort, folds into this same lullaby shape once you look at it long enough. An hour pulling against elastic bands, an hour on a machine built to mimic running with nowhere to run to. Sweat gathering into beads that never fall, only cling and wander until a cloth catches them. None of it feels, from inside the routine, like striving. It feels like the fifth beat in a bar that has already played four. Expected, welcome, over almost as soon as it begins, because the body already knows its place in the sequence. The mind stops treating it as a task to complete and starts treating it as a station the whole cabin simply arrives at. One more marker along track that was always going to be crossed, regardless of how anyone felt about it that particular hour. This is what the daily cadence becomes for the travelers crossing to the small red light ahead, not a countermeasure bolted onto the journey, though it is certainly that too, but a kind of lullaby made of ordinary acts, sung not in words but in repetition. Meal, motion, rest, meal, motion, rest. Carrying a person across a gap so large that no single hour of it could ever be crossed by will alone. You do not cross an emptiness like this, 1 hour at a time, straining toward the far platform. You cross it the way sleep itself is crossed, in units too small to notice, each one indistinguishable from the last, until months have quietly become the distance, and the distance has quietly become behind you. And perhaps that is the real use of a rhythm like this, whether it belongs to a ship falling silently along its arc, or to a train easing over rail after rail through a night without landmarks. It does the travelers remembering for them. You do not have to hold the whole vastness of the trip in your mind at once. The whole 9 months, the whole 200 million kilometers, any more than you have to hold the whole length of this desert crossing in your mind tonight. You only have to notice the next small beat, the next meal, the next stretch of exercise, the next mile of track, and let the beat before it and the beat after it take care of themselves. The body, given a rhythm, stops asking how far there is left to go. It simply keeps time. So let your own body borrow that same trust for a moment. Somewhere beneath your ribs there is a rhythm of its own, older than any schedule a ship's crew ever wrote down, older than any train timetable. Your own breath finding its rail joint over and over, in and out, needing no supervision, arriving nowhere in particular, and yet never failing to arrive. It was keeping this same beat before you ever learned the word for Mars, and it will keep it long after this carriage empties and the desert gives way to some ordinary morning. Let it carry you the same unhurried way it is carrying the sleeping travelers on the crossing ahead, one small beat at a time, none of them urgent, all of them enough. And once the eye has rested a while inside that patient rhythm, let it wander back, at last, to the window. Because outside the glass, outside the hull, outside the false little day the travelers have built for themselves out of meals and motion, something has been growing all this while, quietly, without asking permission. The sheer, patient size of the space this small cabin has been carried through. The light behind has been thinning for a long time now. The light ahead has barely brightened at all. And between the two, filling everything, is a dark that has no far wall. And that rhythm, meals, sleep, the small daily circuit of exercise, is not the only thing holding the traveler now. Let your eyes go, at last, all the way to the window, past the cabin, past the hum of the life support fans, out to where the glass meets the dark. This is the moment to simply look. Behind the train, far down the line, Earth has thinned to a single pale point, a small blue-white lamp left burning on a platform you have already passed. It does not blaze anymore. It does not dominate the sky the way it did from the window of home. It is just one more light among the countless others, small enough now to cover with a fingertip held up against the glass. And ahead, yet so far ahead, Mars is only a faint ruddy star, no bigger than any of its neighbors, giving no sign yet that it is a place with ground and canyons and rust-colored dust waiting to be touched. 2 lamps, one behind, one ahead, and between them nothing but the enormous, patient dark. It would be easy, somewhere else, to feel that darkness as a kind of falling, as absence, as a thing that presses in. But notice, here, in this window seat, how it doesn't press at all. It simply is. It has no weight to lend to your shoulders because it asks nothing of you. The desert outside a night train is like this too. If you have ever watched it slide by for hour after hour, no fences, no lit windows, no small human scale to measure yourself against, just land unrolling into more land, and the stars doing the same thing overhead, unrolling into more stars. A person can feel very small in a desert at night. And it turns out that this is not the frightening part, it is the restful part. Because think for a moment about what smallness actually asks of you, out here between two worlds. It asks nothing. There is no task list a speck can be handed. There is no bill for a point of light to pay. When you are the size of a country, the size of a decision, the size of a deadline, the universe hands you weight. You are big enough to be responsible for things. And responsibility, however necessary, is a kind of holding up. But out here, riding along a curve laid down by gravity and momentum long before you climbed aboard, you are not being asked to hold anything up at all. The ship is being carried. You are being carried inside the ship. And the vastness around you, the kind that has no far wall, no floor, no edge to bump against, is so much larger than any worry you could bring into it that your worry simply doesn't register. It isn't dismissed, it's just outscaled, the way a single grain of sand outscales nothing and is outscaled by everything, and finds in that arrangement a strange kind of peace. This is the quiet trick of enormous spaces, and it works the same way whether the space is a desert at midnight or the black distance between two planets. To be small inside something immense is to be released from carrying it. Think of how, as a child, you might have fallen asleep in the back seat of a car on a long night drive, half hearing the road beneath the tires, trusting completely, without even framing it as trust, that someone larger than you was minding the miles. You didn't have to watch the map. You didn't have to check the gauges. You were small in that car, and the smallness was not a lack, it was a permission. It meant the whole enormous, complicated work of arriving somewhere had been handed to something bigger than you, and all that remained for you to do was rest against the window and let the hum of the engine, the passing of the road lights, do what they were always going to do. There is a particular comfort in numbers this size too, if you let them sit in the mind without trying to hold them up like something heavy. Somewhere between the two little lamps, tens of millions of kilometers of true nothing stretch in every direction the eye could turn, and the ship carrying you is, by any honest measure, no larger in that emptiness than a single mote of dust drifting in a sunbeam through an enormous, darkened room. And yet notice, the mote of dust in a sunbeam has never once had to worry about crossing the room. It simply drifts, caught in a current far bigger than itself, going exactly where that current happens to be going, arriving without ever once having pushed. You are riding a current like that now. It is made of gravity instead of air, and of a curve computed instead of a breeze, but the principle is the same one that let the dust motes settle, unhurried, wherever the room's slow air decided to lay them down. The distance between Earth and Mars is asking the same small mercy of you now. Nobody riding this ark has to personally keep it moving. It does not require your attention to remain true. The physics that lifted you off the platform, the curve that will lower you gently down onto red ground many weeks from now, was worked out and set in motion before you ever boarded, and it does not need you awake, watchful, gripping the armrest to keep functioning. You could sleep through entire days of this crossing, and the trajectory would not notice, would not falter, would not need forgiveness for your inattention. It simply continues, the way the desert outside a night train continues, whether or not any passenger happens to be looking at it. Being gathered up by something that large, something that patient, is one of the gentlest forms of rest there is. The rest of a burden set down because it was never really yours to carry in the first place. Consider, too, that everything riding along with you out here is equally small, equally carried. The hull that surrounds you is only a thin shell holding warmth and air against a cold that has no bottom to it, and even that thin shell has never once had to fight the emptiness directly, the way you might imagine a ship fighting a storm at sea. There is no storm here. There is nothing out there to push against the hull at all. No wind, no current, no resistance worth naming. Only the long, uneventful hush of true open space, so empty that emptiness itself becomes something almost tender, something that asks for nothing and threatens nothing in return. A place that makes no demands is, in its own quiet way, a kind of shelter. You can lean into a demandless place the way you lean into a soft pillow at the end of a long day, trusting it precisely because it has nothing to prove and nowhere it needs you to be. So let the two lights sit where they are for a while. Let Earth stay small and steady behind you, not vanished, not lost, simply distant, present there, ever yours, waiting the way a home platform waits no matter how long the line runs before the train doubles back. Let Mars stay small and steady ahead, a promise more than a place, not yet demanding anything of you either. Between them, let the dark keep doing what dark this size does best, which is hold everything without straining, without needing to be thanked for it. The way the desert holds a train's whole enormous night of travel in a silence that never once seems to notice the weight of the cargo. You are the cargo. You are being minded. There is nothing wrong with going slack in your shoulders here. Nothing wrong with feeling the pull of your own eyelids in a place with no ground to catch you, because the ground, in the ordinary sense, was never the thing holding you up out here. Momentum was. Trust was. The long, worked-out arithmetic of a curve aimed not at where a world is, but at where it will be, that was. And little by little, the way distance eventually always answers patience, that will start to change. It will not happen suddenly, the way a station appears all at once out of fog. It will happen the way morning does on a long train ride, degree by degree, so slowly that you could almost miss the exact hour it began. One evening, or one sleep cycle in the cabin's dim lighting, you will look up, and the small ruddy star ahead will seem to have grown by some fraction too fine to have caught in the act. A little brighter, a little steadier. Not yet a world, still just a point of rust-colored light hanging in the black, but a point that is, unmistakably now, closing the distance, rather than merely occupying it. The vastness that has been so generous in its holding will begin, without any drama, without any jolt, to narrow. The lamp ahead will keep swelling, night by night, the way a light down a long straight desert road keeps swelling as the miles fall away behind the wheels, until what was once a single indistinguishable star among thousands starts to separate itself from the rest of the sky, starts to take on the faint suggestion of a disk, and then, at last, the unmistakable outline of a world with ground beneath it, waiting. And so the red star ahead keeps swelling, night after night, the way a station light on the desert horizon grows from a rumor into a glow into a shape you can finally call a place. What was a point of rust-colored light is now unmistakably a world, a curve of horizon, a hazed edge of atmosphere so thin it barely counts as air, a disk with weather moving across its face like breath fogging a window. The long coast is ending. The falling that has carried you all this way, silent and unpowered, is about to meet something solid, and there is a particular kind of arrival that space travel keeps in store for this exact moment. The part where the ship must trade nearly all of its speed for the chance to stay. Think of it as the last stretch of track before the platform. The place where a night train that has run loose and easy across open country suddenly has to gather itself, brake hard, and thread a narrow approach with no room for drifting. The ship has been moving at many kilometers each second, a speed earned over months of falling toward the sun's gravity and Mars's own pull, and Mars's air is not thick enough to be leaned on the way Earth's is. There is no long, cushioned descent through miles of dense atmosphere here. There is only a handful of minutes to shed a staggering amount of velocity, and every one of those minutes has to work. First comes the entry, when the thin Martian air, mostly carbon dioxide, whispering against the hull at first, then howling, begins to push back hard enough to matter. Friction turns motion into heat, and a shield on the vessel's leading edge glows, absorbing a violence that would otherwise reach the fragile cargo behind it. From inside, were anyone inside, it might feel like nothing more than a low shutter and a wash of orange light through a small window, because the shield is doing exactly what it was built to do, standing between speed and softness, letting the ship slow by giving away its heat instead of its shape. Then, when the air has done what it can, a parachute unfurls into that faint sky. A strange kind of parachute, built for an atmosphere so sparse it can only ever do part of the job. It billows out at supersonic speed, catching what little air there is, trimming the fall further, buying seconds that matter enormously. And then, because even a good parachute cannot finish the work here, small engines fire in the last moments, easing the final descent. Feathering the ship down toward dust and rock, instead of letting it drop the rest of the way. Wheels or legs meet the surface. The instruments go still. Somewhere, controllers on a far platform millions of kilometers back down the line wait for a signal that already happened minutes before they receive it, because even light needs time to cross a gap this wide. Engineers gave this whole sequence its own private nickname, calling it the few minutes of terror, and it is fair to name it honestly rather than soften it away, because that honesty is part of what makes the piece of this ride trustworthy. Yes, it is fast. Yes, it asks a great deal of the hardware in a very short span, compressing what a returning craft at Earth might spread across a long, cushioned glide into something closer to a single held breath. And also, it is engineered, tested, rehearsed, understood down to fractions of a second, the way a night train's brakes are engineered to bring a heavy, fast-moving weight to a stop at exactly the right spot on the platform, no matter how ordinary that stop feels from inside the carriage. Fear and craftsmanship can share the same few minutes. What matters, for a traveler resting in a window seat, is that this violent-sounding arrival is also a controlled one, aimed at rest rather than ruin, ending not in impact but in stillness, wheels down, dust settling, the long crossing finally complete. Every part of that short, furious sequence has already been decided long before it happens, worked out on paper and in laboratories and in the patient repetition of testing, over and over, until the timing is closer to memory than to guesswork. The heat shield knows, In its way, exactly how much fire it must absorb, and exactly how long it must hold its shape while doing so. The parachute knows the precise thin density of the air it will bite into, and the small engines beneath the descending craft know the exact final seconds when they must wake and push back against the ground, rushing up to meet them. None of it is left to chance in the moment. The chance was already spent, carefully, years earlier, at a desk, in a wind tunnel, inside a model dropped again and again until its behavior could be trusted. By the time the real dust rises under the real ship, the terror has already been solved. What remains, for the vessel, and for anyone imagining themselves aboard it, is only the waiting to see the plan unfold exactly as it was written, the way a passenger already knows deep down that the train always does slow in time. And once the ship is down, once the dust has drifted back to the ground and the systems have gone from roaring to humming, it is worth doing what every good journey deserves at its end, laying the numbers out gently, side by side, until the answer to the night's one soft question finally comes into view. How long would it really take to reach Mars? Not a single number, because as this whole ride has shown, the gap between the two stations never sits still long enough to own one. But a true number all the same, one built from everything gathered along the way. The flight itself, the part spent coasting along that wide elliptical arc from platform to platform, runs somewhere between roughly 7 and 9 months, depending on the exact shape of the path chosen and the exact alignment of the two worlds on departure day. That is the length of the ride once you are aboard and moving, the part measured in the rhythm of routines, in the fluids resettling and the muscles adjusting, and the days ticking past in their steady, familiar order. 7 to 9 months of falling freely along a curve too vast to rush. But that flight cannot begin on just any evening. It waits for the window, the one that opens roughly every 26 months, the rare stretch of nights, when Earth's faster lap around the sun brings it swinging past Mars at just the angle needed to fling a ship toward where the red world will be, rather than where it is. Miss that window and there is no shortcut, no later train leaving an hour after, only the long wait for the orbits to come back around into position again, the two stations sliding back into a workable line. So the honest answer, the one this whole long crossing has been quietly building toward, is not a single tidy figure, but a rhythm of its own. The better part of a year in transit, 7 to 9 months given over to the fall itself, but only ever attempted when the worlds agree to make it possible, once every 26 months, no sooner. It is less like checking a timetable for a fixed distance, and more like waiting for a tide than riding it for the better part of a year once it finally turns in your favor. There is something almost comforting in that shape of an answer. It asks for patience twice over, first in choosing the moment, then in enduring the crossing. And patience, more than speed, turns out to be the real engine behind ever reaching that far platform at all. Say the numbers over once more, unhurried, the way you might repeat a station name until it settles into memory. 55 million kilometers at the very nearest, 400 million at the very farthest, an average distance closer to 225 million lying between the two worlds on an ordinary night, a window that opens roughly every 26 months, brief and precious, when the angle of approach finally makes sense. A flight of 7 to 9 months once that window is used, an elliptical arc traced without haste from one moving point to another. None of those numbers is dramatic on its own. Strung together, though, they describe something almost tender. Two worlds that cannot simply meet whenever they wish, that have to wait for their own private alignment before a crossing becomes possible at all. Much like two travelers whose paths only intersect at certain stations, on certain nights, and who make the most of that overlap when it finally comes. And long before any ship carried that patience into space, before any parachute opened into thin red-tinted air, another kind of patience was already at work. Quieter, slower, older, carried not in fuel tanks, but in the simple, steady habit of looking up. Someone, on some ordinary night thousands of years ago, noticed a reddish light wandering against the fixed pattern of the stars, moving where nothing else seemed to move, and could not look away. That noticing was its own kind of first step toward Mars, taken with nothing but a dark sky and an unhurried mind, willing to watch the same point of light again and again, night after night, until its wandering made a kind of sense. And long before any engine ever answered that few minutes of terror, before any parachute opened over that thin apricot sky, there was another crossing altogether, older, slower, made not by machines but by eyes lifted upward from the dark floor of the earth. That crossing has no fixed length because it never really ends, and it belongs to everyone who has ever tilted their head back on a clear night and noticed one wandering point of rust-colored light refusing to sit still among its neighbors. Let the train carry you into that older story now, its wheels beginning, almost without your noticing, to loosen their rhythm, the way a long night finally starts to lean toward morning. Picture the first watchers, thousands of years back, with no window seat and no glass between themselves and the sky, only bare ground and the whole unfiltered dome above them. They had no name yet for what they saw, only the pattern of it, a point of light that moved against the fixed multitude of stars, tracing loops and pauses that no ordinary star obeyed. Babylonian sky recorders kept tables of its wandering on clay, tracking it the way a patient hand follows a single thread through a length of fabric, not yet knowing where the thread led, only that it was worth following. Egyptian and Chinese observers, working in their own separate quiets, noticed the same restless red point and folded it into their own stories of gods and omens, giving it names that all seemed to circle back to the same idea: a wanderer, a fire, something that would not stay put among its calmer companions. In the deserts and river valleys where so much of this early watching happened, the night itself would have felt a little like this carriage does now, wide and dark, and carrying its passengers forward without asking them to do anything but notice. None of them could measure distance yet. None of them knew of orbits or of iron oxide dust. But they had already done the hardest part, which was simply to keep looking. Night after night, patient as rails, laid one at a time across an enormous dark. Later, in the ancient Mediterranean, philosophers folded that same wandering point into their first clumsy models of the heavens, nesting it among crystal spheres that turned around a fixed and central earth, unable yet to imagine that their own ground might itself be in motion. It would take many more lifetimes of looking before anyone dared suggest that the watchers were not standing still at the center of things, but riding, all the while, on a second wandering point of their own, circling the same sun as the red light overhead. That reordering, Earth demoted gently from center to traveler, Mars promoted from mere light to fellow world, was its own kind of arrival, quiet and mathematical, arrived at not through any single flash of insight, but through decades of patient tables and careful, repeated observation. One generation checking and correcting the work of the one before. Centuries folded into each other the way passing stations blur outside a moving window, and the watching continued, unhurried, each generation handing the thread to the next without ever quite finishing the pattern. Then, in the early 1600s, a man named Galileo Galilei turned a small tube of ground glass toward the sky and became, as far as anyone can say for certain, the first person to see Mars not merely as a point, but as something with the faintest suggestion of shape, a soft, trembling disk, dim and imperfect through lenses that would seem almost like toys today, but enough. It was not much, that first blurred glimpse, no more than a shift from a single point of light to a small, stubborn smudge, but it changed the nature of the looking entirely. For the first time, the wanderer was not only a light to be tracked across the sky, but a place, a small, round world floating out there with edges of its own, however faint, however hard to hold steady in a shaking tube on a cold night. Word of that discovery moved outward slowly, the way news traveled on foot and by ship in that era. But it planted something that could not be unplanted. The idea that the red point overhead was a destination, not just a story. Telescopes grew larger and steadier across the centuries that followed, the way a train gathers a smoother certainty to its motion the longer it runs, and with each improvement, a little more of Mars swam into view. Astronomers began charting pale caps at the planet's poles that brightened and shrank with the passing of its own seasons, and dark patches across its face that seemed, to eyes eager for company across such distance, to shift and spread the way vegetation might on a world not so different from ours. It was in this long stretch of careful, hopeful watching that an Italian astronomer named Giovanni Schiaparelli, peering through his instrument in the closing decades of the 1800s, sketched thin straight lines crossing the Martian disk and called them by a word that meant simply channels, natural grooves, nothing stranger than that. But words travel and change shape as they cross borders and languages, and by the time that word reached an American named Percival Lowell, it had become canals, and canals suggested something built rather than something merely worn. An entire civilization, in Lowell's imagining, threading water from icy poles to thirsty deserts, engineering a whole world's survival. He built an observatory in the high, clear air of Arizona specifically to study those lines, drew elaborate maps of a Martian irrigation network that existed nowhere but in the eye's eagerness to find company out among the stars, and for a time an entire public imagination rode along beside him, picturing a red world humming quietly, with purposeful, patient life. It was, of course, a mistaken reading. The eye and the longing filling gaps that better instruments would later close. No canals, no builders, only the ordinary, magnificent geology of a real planet doing what real planets do, without needing anyone to have designed it. But even a mistaken glance is still a glance, still part of that unbroken chain of looking that stretched back to the clay tablets and forward toward something that would finally leave the ground and travel there directly. And travel there it did, in time, once engines could do what eyes alone could not. In the 1960s, a spacecraft named Mariner made the crossing this train has already carried you through once tonight, riding its own long curving fall through the dark, and sent back the first close photographs ever taken of another planet. Grainy, gray, honest images of craters and old cold ground that quietly ended the age of canals, for good, replacing an imagined civilization with something humbler and in its own way more astonishing, an actual world at last laid bare to actual eyes. A little more than a decade later, 2 Viking landers touched down on that real ground, the first crafts to settle rather than only pass by, sending back photographs of rust-toned rock and a sky the color of a fading afternoon. along with soil that the landers tested patiently for any sign of life, finding none they could call certain, but proving, all the same, that a hand reaching from Earth could touch Martian dust and report faithfully on what it found. And after Viking came the rovers, one careful glance turning at last into an actual footstep, or something closer to one. 6-wheeled travelers with names like Small Quiet Promises, Sojourner and Spirit, and Opportunity, and Curiosity and Perseverance, each of them rolling for months and then years across that dust the ancient watchers once mistook for canals, each sending home its own lingering trickle of images, close enough now to see the grain of individual pebbles, the ripple of long, dry riverbeds, the pale drift of dust devils crossing empty plains. It is a story with no dramatic single ending, only an accumulation. The way distance itself accumulates outside a train window. One careful look laid down after another, century after century. Each watcher adding a single frame to a portrait, built slower than any of them could see completed. Somewhere in that long, unbroken thread of attention, a person with bare eyes and a cold night and nothing else at all first noticed a red point that would not sit still, and did not know, could not have known, that the noticing itself was already the beginning of the whole quiet, patient journey. Outside the window now, the rails have begun to loosen their rhythm further still, the clack of the wheels drawing longer between each beat, the way any long-held attention eventually settles into something unhurried and low. There is nothing more to decide tonight, nothing more to measure or plan, only the last soft miles of a desert sliding by half seen, and the sense, somewhere under the drowsy weight of the blanket, that centuries of careful looking are folded quietly into this very stillness, carrying you, unnoticed, the last remaining distance toward sleep. Tonight has been about a platform at dusk, 2 worlds standing at a distance that felt, for a while, like something you could almost measure with your own 2 hands. Tonight has been about a gap that breathes, opening and narrowing between those worlds on its own unhurried timetable, so that the honest answer to how long was never one number, but a whole slow season of numbers, rising and falling like a tide you were never asked to track. Tonight has been about engines falling silent and a body carried for months through the dark on nothing but momentum and trust, coasting the way you are coasting now, without needing to do a single thing to keep moving forward. And tonight has been about small lights rising out of blackness at the end of a long crossing, about the comfort of smallness, about old watchers standing under old skies, noticing a rust-colored point of light long before anyone had words for orbits or engines, and simply wondering, the way you are allowed to simply wonder now, with no obligation to arrive at anything. None of this needs anything from you tonight. Not the distances, not the timetables, not the months of dark. You do not have to hold on to a single fact from anything you just heard. You were never being tested, only accompanied, the way a long train ride accompanies a tired passenger who drifts in and out of the window's dark reflection without ever needing to stay awake for the whole of it. If your mind has already let go of half of what was said, that is exactly right. That is what this was for. Another quiet exploration is already waiting on the screen, ready to carry on right where this one leaves off, so there is nothing for you to choose and nothing for you to decide. Just let it begin on its own, low and unhurried, while you stay exactly where you are, warm, heavy, sinking a little further into the mattress with every breath. You do not have to reach for anything. You do not have to open your eyes to see what comes next. If you find yourself still awake for a moment longer, Here is a small, easy thing to loosen into. Nothing to answer. Nothing to work out. Somewhere out past your window tonight, under the same dark that has been rocking you all this while, that same rust-colored point of light is rising too, patient as it has always been, waiting the way it waited for every watcher before you. And you can simply let that thought sit there, unfinished, soft at the edges, while everything else in you lets go. Feel the weight of the blanket settling a little heavier now. Feel your breath slow into that long, low rhythm of wheels on rail, on and on, carrying you without asking you to steer. The desert beyond the window has gone fully dark, and the stars have thickened into something almost solid, and there is nowhere left to be but exactly here, sinking, unhurried, carried. Your thoughts can uncouple now, one by one, drifting back along the track behind you like carriages left at some small, forgotten station, while you keep moving forward into rest. There is nothing left to hold, nothing left to follow, nothing left to understand. Only the low rocking hush of the ride, and the dark outside the glass, and the whole patient night stretched out ahead of you like open track. Let it carry you all the way down, past thought, past distance, past every number you were ever given, into something wide and dark and completely still. Sleep well.